Another way that Michael assists people is by helping them to discover their purpose. Who am I? Why am I here? Why is life the way it is? Ilene Elliott had been asking these types of questions most of her life, and through working with Michael, she was able to get answers, but also gain a clear understanding of who she is and the world that we live in. Good morning, Ilene.
Good morning, Garret.
Thank you for joining me today.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. I'd like to begin by asking you, how did you hear about Michael and the work he does?
So I first heard about Michael through Renee. And I heard because I was interested in her story about what had happened with her son Wilson and how Wilson's life had changed and how her life had changed from the work that they did with Michael.
And what part of her story inspired you to check out Michael for yourself?
And so she told me about Wilson, and I was curious, and I was putting together a collection of stories about people who had overcome some difficult circumstances and how did they do that. So her conversation about that intrigued me when she talked about Michael. And one of the things that I remember most is she said she realized that she had been judging everything to do with her son, everything to do with her life. And I remember saying to her, well, I kind of understand that, like maybe this much, like what you're really talking about. And so we talked further, and she invited me to meet Michael, and which was a very scary thing for me because I imagined, because of my past experiences with healers and teachers, and that he was going to look at me and be very negative and tell me all the things that were wrong with me.
How did you initially respond to Michael when he presented what he saw in you?
One of the first things he said to me after I met him was, you seem like a nice person, but why are you so angry? And that was pretty scary to have someone be that straightforward and blunt.
So he presented you with your greatest fear. And then what did you do?
I think I just listened to it because he had a lot to say. But I think at the time I was surprised that he found anger. I thought he would say fear. And I did. I felt very fearful in his presence because I just, I had heard about him and he sounded like a very powerful person. And I was anticipating an experience where I would be kind of made to feel worse about myself. And I'm not sure that I remember a lot of detail about that, but he said, you're just a very angry person. And that is something that has been hard to admit, even though I knew it was true. I surely knew it was true. I thought he would say fear on that was on top of the anger, but he went right into the anger. And I've had such deep anger that would come out and hardly ever, but when it does, it's a very strong physical feeling that I have kept hidden from everybody, or thought I did. It's there, of course it's there.
How did Michael help you transition from being afraid of your anger and suppressing it to owning it and then dealing with it?
I like what Michael talks about. It's about how, we cover all this stuff up under good deeds and being pleasant people, doing kind things for folk and whatever, so that we can be seen as good people. And then in addition to that, his message that we have done no wrong is so liberating, because thinking of myself as an angry person with all this anger and resentment inside makes me want to typically feel like, what a horrible, horrible person. I should go out and do something good in the world to cover that up and make it better. And then the message is, you've done nothing wrong. You came to explore these energies and to learn from them.
Michael often says, when the student is ready to learn the lesson, the teacher will appear. What were you searching for when Michael appeared in your life?
So before Michael, I had spent decades searching. I think I would define myself as a searcher. And what I was searching for was an understanding of purpose, of understanding of not just my purpose, but of human purpose. Like, why are we here? And I couldn't really wrap my brain around some people's ideas that we're just here because some accidental thing happened and we emerged somehow. And certainly didn't make any sense that Adam and Eve created us. And nor did it make sense to me that we were the only living beings in the universe. You know, the idea that somehow we're superior beings, that did not make sense to me. I was not raised with any kind of a religion. So I spent many years searching for a religion that I thought would give me an answer. So just tried lots of different things, and nothing ever quite made sense. It would help me move forward, I think.
What is unique about Michael and his teaching that allowed you to finally put those pieces together and move forward?
For me, Michael's teachings and work is about putting the pieces together of lots of pieces that I already had heard. So the idea that we chose to be here. Well, I've heard that for years, but what does that really mean? And his ability to show the big picture of what that means, and I think has made the biggest difference for me to keep bringing my life back to what is the big picture instead of living in the small picture of just my life.
How did your thoughts begin to change once you started working with Michael?
I think the biggest piece is really checking myself for where am I blaming, where am I judging, where am I feeling resentful, um, and how my thoughts and what I'm thinking about myself, my circumstances, other people are really what Michael would say creates our reality. It's what feels true if it's what I'm thinking, and if I can when I change the way I'm thinking, and realize the power in thoughts, relationships become easier.
What self-realizations did you come to through your new understanding?
The first thing that I would think of is because what he's saying makes so much sense. You know, what I had said before about putting the pieces together. And the fact that the idea of our thoughts, our energy, and that power of energy, and how to work with it. One of the things I realized that I grew up with is this personalizing other people's reactions or words and making it all about myself. You know, not really seeing that I am in control of my own thoughts in my own life. What other people are thinking, doing, really have nothing to do with me, in the sense of them blaming me or causing me ill will or whatever it might be. But that sense of personalizing, like it's always about me.
How did others in your life respond when you began to change your perspective?
Well, I've had one interesting circumstance, a difficult relationship with a family member that has certainly improved. And she said to me recently, "I've never seen you look so happy." And that seemed a pretty powerful statement.
What tools have you learned from Michael that you apply in your day-to-day life?
I do make a practice. I get up a lot in the night. I'm usually up every couple of hours, and I always make it a practice when I get up. I say, "I love you, God. I love you, Source." I think about, Michael has even said, you know, before you think, say, "I love you, Source." And that is just a mind-blowing thought. I love you, Source.
Saying I love you, God, or I love you, Source, in your thoughts. before you speak to anyone, or even whenever you think about someone. How has using that tool made a difference in your personal interactions?
What it does for me is it reminds me that we are one, that they are an aspect of God, as I am an aspect of God, that we are the same. And I often find myself when I use it, a spontaneous smiling, just kind of this loving feeling that happens for me when I think that way, instead of looking at the separateness. And that's just really, really old habit, to look at the separateness instead of that we are one. I do notice the habit of coming from that judging, fear-based place. It's a huge, deep habit, and it's very, very useful and powerful to have a tool to help me identify it, and then also to release it.
And also, on a side note, have you been saying I love you source before you answer?
Ah, ah, gosh darn it.
What are some other tools Michael has given you?
I love that his telling us to ponder things. It just feels so free to, okay, like I don't have to have the answer right now. I can just ponder these things. Um, I think, of course, the whole idea that to celebrate our experiences, to understand again from a big picture that we chose to be here, that we want to understand the energies that are here, how to create with it, what the consequences are, um, and um, and that we have choice, and we are here doing something purposeful. I talked earlier about looking for purpose, and Michael, for me, has helped me see that my purpose is simply living here and sorting out the power of energy and the power of thought, and how to create whatever our experience is, and acknowledge that we are creating when we don't like it. We every life, every person has created their own lives, and if they don't like them, the power is within to change.
As Michael says, you the boss. Ilene, you have participated in several of Michael's workshops. How would you describe that experience?
My experience with the workshops is that it's a group of people, and we're sitting together, and we're having opportunities to work with energy and thoughts about our perceptions. And people have individual opportunity while within the group.
What is the benefit of being in that group setting versus just working one-on-one?
There's such an interesting dynamic of being one, that understanding that we're all one, in a group setting. Again, it becomes very powerful, because it's not just about uh, an opportunity to speak with Michael and have him um, help me sort out what's going on. It's also the opportunity to learn from others, to realize again that oneness, that what other people are questioning or struggling with, or sorting out, is all about all of us, and that we're simply, it's true that we're one.
How is Michael's workshop different from other groups you have participated in?
Well, I think for me, again, it's the clearings that we do, that we really clear energy, and we're aware that there's energy. Um, I think that's, we don't just kind of, again, I'm thinking of very similar kind of style to somebody I worked with for over 20 years, in the sense of I'm at the front of the room, directing it. But the difference for me is that the clearing of the energy and the tools of knowing how to do that.
Could you give an example of a profound change you've witnessed in someone else during the workshop? that has inspired you?
The biggest experience is with the woman who had been an AA member for, was it 30 years, 20, many years, an AA member who considered herself an alcoholic and who was deeply, deeply into the AA philosophy, and felt that that was a huge, huge, huge part of her life, that meetings and being involved with different councils of AA and different roles of leadership for AA, and going to many meetings every week, and fully, fully engaged in AA. And within a very short while, just really understanding that that she was in control of her own life, that her thoughts determined the reality, and that she had lived in an AA environment that was fear-based, that said, you have to be afraid, you can't trust yourself, you have to rely on something outside of yourself. And her ability to let that go and live a really happy, joyful life out of AA has been a tremendous experience to watch.
Yes, I was there at that workshop too. And it was incredible to see this woman take the first drink in 23 plus years without feeling guilty, to see that personal victory saying, I'm in control of my life. I don't have to be afraid of this anymore.
It's just, so huge, because it's not just AA that teaches us that. It's just so much a part of our culture that we do not have personal power, that we are not in control, that this has to be something outside of us. And that leads into, for me, that resentment in the victim role. And so that has been tremendous to see that happen.
From your perspective, why is Michael such an effective teacher?
There's a couple answers to that. One is, I think he offers the validation and support that teaches us that we are all powerful beings, and that we don't have to look outside of ourselves for answers. While at the same time, I think he has some abilities that are beyond where I am, and most of us that I know are, in the sense of being able to see that energy and understand more about what's going on for us as individuals. You'll often, I think he's seeing and feeling energy connected to each of us that we're not seeing or understanding ourselves, and is able to work with that energy, as well as sometimes simply pointing it out.
Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you, Ilene, for taking time to talk with me.
Okay. Well, thank you, Garret.
See you later.